Hey everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Board Meeting, which is a new show on the channel, which is going to be dedicated to talking about crowdfunding. It's going to be talking about board game news. It's going to be talking about what I'm playing, what my co-host Mackenzie is playing. Amongst all other things, we're going to be introducing new kind of segments to the show as we go by, and hopefully just tweaking it as we go, making it better and better. The plan is to make this a bi-weekly show. There or thereabouts, depending on our schedules. But if you don't, you're probably familiar with me if you're watching this channel, but you might not be familiar with my co-host here, Mackenzie. So I will let Mackenzie introduce himself.
Howdy, my name is Mackenzie Franklin. I'm from Side Game in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So I've worked with Dan before. We did a collaboration on my channel where we looked at our top 10 game boards. But now we've kind of reached out and met each other and said, hey, this is a cool thing that we should be working on. We got to get ourselves out there. And I thought that this would be a fantastic idea in order to, just kind of share our thoughts or ideas and our progressions in this kind of bi-weekly series. So super excited to work with Dan. I think that this is going to be a wonderful show. And I'm glad you're tuning in with us this morning.
Lovely, thank you very much. And if you can't tell, Mackenzie and I aren't from the same part of the world, that is. Mackenzie is from the US, I'm from England. So naturally, it's going to be quite difficult for us to find a time with a 7-hour time gap between us. So I think it's a bit early for some of you, or too late, depending on where you are in the world, but just catch up and watch the show whenever you like. So we want to make this chilled. We want to get as much kind of audience participation as possible, but we'll just go through it. Bear with me because I'm not the most tech savvy of person, and this is the first time I've ever hosted a stream, but we'll see how we do. So let's get started with the first segment where we are going to be talking about crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is obviously a huge part of the board gaming world. And we're going to talk about some of the big hitters, probably some of the games that are going to pique your attention, because there's a lot out there, and kind of fighting through that chaff and finding good gems is probably more and more difficult. Would you agree with that, Mackenzie?
I absolutely agree. So we're going to be covering things that are live right now that you can go ahead and back. So these could be things ending in the next couple of days. These could be things that have a couple of weeks left. So we've got lots of choices here. We'll talk about the publishers, the time, everything that's going to get you a kind of general idea of the game, and if it might be something you want to check out in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first topic we are going to be talking about today, or the first game that is going to be... Oh, I've got the wrong window up here, but that's not going to be difficult to sort out.
Little sneak peek for the future. There you go.
Yeah, sneak peek for the future there. Let's sort this one out. So I did pre-plan, believe it or not, and I still managed to get it wrong.
I'm impressed so far. This is great.
Okay, so here we go. The first game we're going to be talking about is Florence. So Florence is going to be the third game in this kind of Euro trilogy by Brain Crack Games, following Ragusa and following Venice. This one is described as an opulent area control game for 1 to 5 players. This one, I believe, takes about 90 minutes to play. Here we go. Oh, sorry, 20 minutes per player. Here we go. Ages 12 plus. And it looks like this one is going to cost £45 in English money, that is. I don't know what that quite equates to in US money.
In US dollars, it's about $55. But, we're on Kickstarter enough that we understand the weight and value of euros and British pounds and all that stuff. So no worries there.
Okay. Have you played any of the previous Brain Crack games, Mackenzie?
So I have not, but I do recognize the art. This is the same artist who did Everdell, as you can see here. But I've not played Ragusa or any of these style games. And what does it mean by opulent area control game?
Well, I assume it's just because of the setting. So here we go. It says, as the sun sets on one of Italy's most opulent cities, a carnival is taking place, giving rare access to Florence's de facto rulers, the Medici. So as the night progresses, dispatch your family to parties around the city, collect gossip, brag about your achievements, and muscle to the front of the crowds to get valuable face time with the heads of the Medici family. So pretty generic Euro stuff here. I think you probably agree there.
Sorry, my eyes glazed over a little bit.
So I actually have played one of the 3 games of the trilogy here, Venice, which I'll be talking about later, actually, because I only played it within the last week. This one is designed by, I forget his name, but I don't think he's got, here we go, Dean Morris. I've got too much of a back catalogue of games to talk about. His most popular, I believe, I've got it written down somewhere. Not quite sure where it says. Oh, yeah, here we go. Pacific Rails Incorporated. I haven't played it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how it's rated. Have you played that one?
So I have not. Once again, this is not a design or a group that I'm familiar with. Not even that game. I've heard of Medici, and that's kind of it looks like it may have some influence of that, or may continue that story. But this is one that I've never heard of. No interest right now. But I don't really see anything that's crazy gripping me on this one.
Okay, no problem at all. So I think Medici were kind of a really prestigious family around this time era. I don't know too much about the mechanisms here. It sounds like they kind of like to throw in this kind of intrigue element to each of their games, which was a big part of Venice. I will kind of a spoiler alert, that game didn't blow me away, despite it being kind of led by David Turtsey, who I do really rate. So I'm kind of tainted about trying this one because I did wait a long time for the first, for the Venice Kickstarter to be fulfilled, and ultimately I was a little bit disappointed. So, if you did like the Ragusa,
and I can see that kind of reflected in the current.
If you did like Ragusa and you did like Venice, yeah, true. Maybe interest is starting to deteriorate as maybe the kind of investment and value that people hold on these games are maybe slipping due to maybe being let down. But maybe a personal slant there. But maybe you want to check out if you did enjoy those other titles. Okay, so the next game we are going to be talking about is, if I can search in the bar here. So the second title was.
I can introduce this one if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it.
So this one's going to be It's a Wonderful Kingdom. So this is a sequel that's 2 or 1 player only, and this is going to be a kind of a take on the It's a Wonderful World system. So this is set during medieval times. You're owning a kingdom as opposed to this dystopian society. And it's going to have this same beautiful artwork. It's going to have new updated modules that you're going to be added to the game, and it's going to keep that core mechanism of using cards to either build out in front of you or to dump as resources to pay for cards. It still has that production system where you're going to be creating resources, using them to create cards, and you could even play them during the middle of those production chains. So you have lots of cool options when it comes to that. So It's a Wonderful Kingdom. It's got a whole bunch of stretch goals. It's got that deluxe edition. It does have Kickstarter exclusive components as well as artwork and a box sleeve. So you've got some reason to back it now as opposed to waiting to retail. And I'm speaking from experience. I recently just did a list on my top 10 favorite short solo games, and this ranked very highly on there. It's one that I really enjoy, but I'm not sure how this will, how this really convinces me on a 1 to 2 player game. What do you think so far, Dan?
So It's a Wonderful World was a game actually I want to try, and I'll be honest, this Wonderful Kingdom game, because I'm much more interested in the theme of this one. Am I right in thinking that It's a Wonderful World was not 1 to 2 players?
So It's a Wonderful World goes all the way from 1 to 6, I believe. So it actually plays quite the high variety of player counts, and it plays well at all those player counts because most of the actions are simultaneous. But this one in particular has one key mechanic change where it's going to be an I cut you choose. So they take a similar style to something like, let's see, Hanami Koji, where you're going to be making piles and you're kind of putting that pressure on your opponent to pick cards that hopefully you don't need. So it's interesting. I think it's a cool twist to the game, but I'm not sure if it really makes it so that you really need this if you own the core game. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very much on the edge of backing this one. I'm not sure whether it's just worth waiting for the game to come out at retail, because probably not a game I'm going to play too often, but I do want to try it regardless. Not being delivered until January 2022, and naturally we've got millions of games on our shelves to play, so I might just wait for this one to come out. but still intrigued. I love the way this game looks. I've heard there's some really good combo synergies, kind of engine building, which is my cup of tea already. So definitely want to check out if you do like this kind of thing. And I don't know if it's worth backing this one if you are a fan of It's a Wonderful World, if it warrants having both. But I suppose we shall see. Two different versions here, as Mackenzie said. You've got the deluxe version and the standard version here, which are some differences if you want to check those out. Okay, so let's talk about the next game we got. We're going to be talking about here. So this is probably one of the big ones, at least from a commercial kind of maybe wide appeal ideology. This one is Monster Hunter.
So Dan, are you a fan of the Monster Hunter franchise at all?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a computer game or a video game at all, to be honest. Very rarely I'll play anything like this, but the concept of this looks super cool. I guess it's about hunting monsters.
Exactly. You're in this world populated by these gigantic creatures, and it's your job to get your crew of hunters out to go hunt down these creatures, skin them alive, use their bodies for weapons for future hunts. It honestly this is kind of what the game Kingdom Death Monster is based off of, this idea of going out and hunting and surviving. But it's going to be exactly driven from the IP. So if you are a fan, it's going to have characters and weapons and creatures that are taken directly from the source material. And I think that's where some of the cost definitely comes from, is making sure you're keeping that IP. But it does have a really cool array of miniatures. It's got these gigantic creatures, and they are gigantic. This is like Joan of Arc level dragons mixed with smaller miniatures. So it is to scale in this kind of world. So lots of components, as you're seeing here. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, absolutely. And am I right in thinking that this company, Steamforged, they kind of make it their kind of duty to make out these IP based games? I think they released Resident Evil and I forgot the other one. Oh, was it Dark Souls?
So they did Dark Souls. They did Horizon Zero Dawn, which community-wise, they were kind of missteps. But I've heard for this one, they are taking a lot of community feedback and really improving things. So, and lots of people have played this game and have reported that it is actually a pretty solid game. It's one that they'll come back to, and it's good. It's a great improvement. So I like the way they've handled this. They've taken their criticism constructively. Really cool.
Yeah, I think as I think you said, the kind of default position I'd have on this one is a game where it's an IP grab, cash grab, something where it's going to be all style and no substance. But it's good to hear that they've been taking feedback. Obviously, it is visually very impressive with these miniatures, and I suppose a lot of people will be backing it for these miniatures. But hopefully, there's some good gameplay to back this one up. Not something I'm interested in myself, but it's clearly doing very well. Made a lot of money already.
So the comparison to the game Primal, The Awakening, is very real. So Primal came out on Kickstarter in January, and that's a very similar game. It kind of takes that Monster Hunter style, but instead of having this large board, you have a very small, intimate board. So that's one that we actually got for iLibrary, was Primal. So I think we're going to wait on this one. And if it does receive more positive reviews, or if it does present something that's different that we want for the library in the future, I think this might be one we do add. But for right now, probably not going to back this one.
Okay, cool. It looks like there's a lot of things kind of you could add on to your pledge as well, not just the base game. There's a lot of additional modules and things, which is naturally going to cost a lot of money, I think. But if you're interested and you're invested in that IP, then if there's something I was interested in, I'd be over the moon that something like this would be coming out. So hopefully
clearly $2 million worth of people are having a great time with this.
Exactly. So hopefully it's as good as they hope it's going to be. So next game we're going to be looking at is an expansion, actually, and this one is an expansion to Keeper called Keeper at Sea. I haven't played Keeper, a game that I've wanted to try. I've not played actually any of these key games in this series by Richard Breese. Have you played Keeper?
So Keeper is the one I haven't played. So my favorite, one of my favorite games, and my favorite one by Richard Breese, is Keyflower. I I really enjoy that whole smooth system. This introduces something similar where you're gathering resources, but you're doing it on this really funky board. So it's like this foldable board that you're using. And this expansion in particular, it's going to add a bunch of little things. So it has not only a solo mode, but it also has an emphasis on fishing. So there's water spaces on your boards, and you're able to kind of manipulate that to pick up all these cute little creatures. So there's like treasures and octopus and fish, and it just really adds this cute little new mechanic that I think fits really well with the whole theme of like this harbor town. So I think it's really fun. I really like the artwork in this, and if it plays anything like the original Keyflower, I think that this is one that I definitely want to give a try. And this one does have a solo mode, so I can learn it beforehand, and it's something that I can play to kind of keep myself refreshed while I'm not playing it. So excited for this one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this I've seen this somewhere else actually. From this game where they've got this really cool folding mechanism. It looks really interesting. I'm not sure how it works, functionally in the game and what part it plays, but it does look quite puzzly and quite interesting. So maybe a game I have to check out.
It reminds me a little bit of Smartphone Inc., where you're trying to show specific symbols in order to take actions or to gain resources. So I think that's kind of the mechanic there.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that's if you're a fan of Keeper, there's an expansion coming out. So next one we're going to be talking about is a game I really don't know much about. A game called Explore It.
So Dan, this one's actually on GameFound. So this one's not on Kickstarter.
Okay, that's why I couldn't find it then. Okay, no problem at all. I won't get the window up, but what do you know about Explore It?
So you can see they've actually ran a couple of successful Kickstarters on here as well. So Valley of the Dead Kings, Sand of Shirax. This one in particular is Hexplore It, the domain of Mirza Noctis. So it runs about $64 for the base game itself. It plays 1 to 6, and it is a bit of a longer game, about 3 hours, but it is wild. So this game is a huge adventure game in a box. Now this one's Castlevania themed. It's called Crestvelia, but you're going to pick a race and you'll combine it with an aspect, and everything about the game is customizable, but you're going to go and you'll be exploring. So you'll be all over this gigantic hex-based map, hence Hexplore It. And the way you interact with it is you're going to be drawing tiles, lots of different cards, a lot of random events. So it's all generated on this system. But the game itself has you drawing with like this dry erase marker to mark stats and stuff. So it's really wild. It's really interesting, and I just think it's a really cool system. It's one I'd really like to give a try. Cool Stuff Inc. just had a sale on the Sands of Shirax version of this game, so hopefully it's one that we get to try soon here.
Okay, sounds quite ambitious.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one is probably a game that most people are going to know about simply because of the IP. This one is Marvel Unlimited, and this one is the new X-Men expansion. If I can find it. Oh, sorry, Marvel United, not Unlimited. Let's get the window up here. It's loading up. Here we go. This game looks like it's spiraled out of control pretty quickly in terms of being bloated and stuff that you can get for it. I don't know much about it. I'm a huge Marvel fan, always have been since I was a kid. But I must admit, I was kind of put off by this one because I don't want a game on my shelf that's going to take up half my collection. Have you played this game or?
I have played Marvel United, so this is one that I passed on the initial Kickstarter. I looked at the gameplay, and it seemed a little bit too simple for me. It has you playing out cards in this kind of row of cards. It's a timeline. When you play a card, you use the symbols in the front and the back, and the symbols are very straightforward. Move, punch, special, and then wild. So you're hitting these very basic symbols, doing very basic things in order to interact with all these villains on a board. So you're trying to either save people or take out the villain. And it's exactly as simple as it sounds. So it's one that I'm happy I didn't back. The gameplay really wasn't enough for me. I feel like there are cooperative games that are a little bit more exciting for people of all ages. And this one just didn't really present a lot of didn't present a lot of challenging choices. Everything seemed fairly obvious, and it wasn't one that I was very impressed with. Now, that being said, I've only played the base game a couple of times. I have not played with any of the expansion content, but this one in particular adds a lot of interesting things. So it adds a one versus all mode, which I think is cool. I think that's an interesting way to kind of twist this game. And it also adds a new mode with team-based. So kind of similar to Marvel Legendary, where you are playing to take out this villain, but the team that gets the most points or does the best during this time is going to actually win the game. And I think that will maybe add something different, but that core gameplay of play a card, copy the stuff in front of you, I'm not sure if that's something that's really going to keep pulling people back in.
Okay. X-Men were my thing when I was growing up,
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see some of these quite niche characters here. You got like Strife, you got Cable, even the Brood Queen, Sauron, got loads of quite obscure characters in these amazing little kind of chibi miniatures. So looks lovely. I don't know if this is going to be a game that's going to stand the test of time in 5 years or so, but we shall see, I suppose. But
yeah, I mean, the amount of content here, woof, you're going to have enough to last to last the test of time. That's for sure. I do love that they're doing all these characters, and they just released a Deadpool expansion for this, so that seems kind of fun. I mean, fourth wall breaking abilities. If our game is simple and light as this, I think that might be a lot of fun.
Okay, and again, clearly immensely popular. 16,000 backers. Over £2 million.
Lots of positive reviews on this one. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So I assume maybe a lot of the fans who have pledged previously are going to get that one just automatically.
Oh, absolutely.
The next game we're going to be talking about is something a bit smaller. This is Hidden Leaders. This one looks like, well, it's certainly a shorter game, 2 to 6 player game, 30-minute card-based game, where it looks like they have a lot of different roles and things in this one. It's got an element of deduction here as well, like 2 to 6 players, 30 minutes this game, age 10 plus. Lots of cards here. I've done a little bit of research on this one, and it looks like it has this kind of key, almost tug-of-war style mechanism where you're playing cards trying to influence the state of these different kind of factions. Really cool artwork on this one. I love this kind of dark, cartoony style. I think it looks great. It looks really good. And yeah, not too much knowledge about how this one actually plays out in kind of its intricacies, but hopefully there's some good synergies and things here. And I know these kind of role selection, hand management, where you've got all these different powers and things are generally quite popular. This one seems to be doing okay, and it could be one of those games that kind of, fly under the radar a bit and start to maybe peak above, like maybe gets a bit of praise as it goes down through the kind of as time progresses, etc. And good word spreads about it. But looks interesting. Said it looks like there's a lot going on. Lots of different characters, really nice artwork and stuff. So if that one appeals to you, check it out. Any thoughts on this one, Mackenzie?
I think it looks gorgeous. I like that it's this kind of short, quick game. It's something kind of different that you normally see on Kickstarter. But I think this is one that I'm quite interested in. A lot of people have really kind of brought this to the forefront. It seemed very under the radar, but now I think a lot more people are really involved with this game. So I'm glad it's getting the attention it looks like it deserves. The playthroughs are very cool. And it's definitely reached its funding goal and above. I can see this one being one that stays in the zeitgeist for a little bit.
Yeah, very affordable as well. €20, about £18 there. So
yeah, the fact the pledge level's so low, but it's still making that much money is pretty awesome.
Yeah, could be tempted on this one, to be honest. So we'll be following that one a bit closer. Okay, so let's have a look at the next game we're going to be talking about. I think another kind of one on the lighter end of this scale. This one is called Transmissions. Another game with lovely art, if I remember right, if I can get this one up. Let's have a look. Here we go, Transmissions board game. So this one, here we go, a Rondell Wecker placement board game. 9 days to go on this one. A pledge goal of $35,000, and it's made way above that. So again, very cute. You can probably see by the look of it. 45 to 60 minutes, age 10 plus. Visually, I think the game looks wonderful. I'm not so sure about what the mechanisms are, but it seems to be getting some good feedback here. And the designer of this one, Adam West, has made some relatively successful titles. I think Deadline sticks out to me as the most recognizable out of those ones. Have you played any of those titles before?
Haven't played any of the titles, but I won't lie. The cute little tiny robot artwork is drawing me in. It's pretty adorable.
Yeah.
The minis look great. I think this has a great aesthetic to it in general.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Sounds like they've done a good job of implementing quite a few things here while still being accessible. And clearly, there's a lot of appeal to this one because I think if you show this one to anybody, they're going to like the look of it. Really characterful art here, which is quite impressive considering they're just little robots. So, yeah. So if you're looking for a lighter game, there's a rondel system, a replacement. Again, I love the fact that they use all these kind of discarded household items as components and things. Really nice theme, and yeah, definitely check this one out if you're looking for a lighter or a game on the lighter scale of things. Okay, so the next game is one that struck me as ambitious as well, a bit like the Explorer game that you mentioned. This one, something completely different and a real unique theme, and I think it only just launched in the last day or two.
Yeah, this one is very recently.
Yeah, this one's called My Father's Work by Renegade Game Studios. From the look of it, there's a lot going on in this game. I think it's being touted as a Euro-centric game, so it's going to be a lot of Euro mechanisms. But I think there is a campaign kind of thread throughout if you wish to play it that way. And I suppose the setting and the theme is that you are almost like a mad scientist trying to continue your family's legacy of work, conducting kind of grotesque experiments, that kind of thing. Miniatures involved, which I wasn't aware of. Loads of cards. So yeah, it looks like you got a lot here on the more expensive side of things here. $99, 2 to 4 player game, 180 minutes, longer end of things there. Have you looked into this one at all, Mackenzie?
So originally I saw this one and I immediately got Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein vibes. Have you played that game at all?
I haven't played it, no. I've seen it and it looks really cool.
It's not one that I would go back to. It takes this idea of kind of continuing the work of a mad scientist, and that seems to be what this one is going to as well. That one was a little bit too long, and it had some randomness in it that was really not appropriate in my opinion. But this one seems really interesting. It has an interactive app that's going to do some of the storytelling for you. The board is kind of that flip book that will change as you play. I like that it has that progression. I think that's really cool. And I think that maybe it took this idea and has changed it up, and maybe it'll be a little more approachable. I don't see any dice in this game. It seems a bit more like resource converty, where you're going to be taking things and turning them in for point cards or different objectives, things like that. So this one seems a little bit more controlled chaos, which I think is exciting and probably more approachable. It's got a great organization system, and I like the idea that it does have a story that you can go from place to place, but it looks like it also is standalone as well, so you can just do specific one-shot games, which is great. I like that kind of option in these larger story-based Euro games.
Yeah, it looks ambitious. It looks like there's a lot going on. You don't really see this theme used too often. At least I can't think of too many games with it, apart from the ones you mentioned there. But yeah, I love the name of the game, My Father's Work. It sounds unique, sounds different. Great front cover. The only thing that would kind of tilt this one is because I think with games like this, it rewards. It kind of rewards a big life cycle. For a brief period of time, you play it back to back, keep playing it. Where I personally like to dip in and out of games, which might not suit this style of gameplay. But fair play, if it's going to be live up to what it kind of promises to and fulfills all these things, or that it looks like it's trying to do, then it could be a triumph. So check that one out. It's doing well, and so only just been up for. For a little while already. 15 days to go, over 2,000 backers already, and over £140,000 there. So check that one out if that one appeals to you. So the final game we're going to be talking about at least in this section of the show, is a game based on, well, a follow-up from Dice Hospital. This is Dice Theme Park. So again, this one is from the same designers who did Sagrada, which I thought was a great game. And this one, as I said, you are trying to build a theme park, and I believe the kind of visitors to your theme park are represented by dice. There you go. So build attractions, hire staff and mascots, and score huge scoring combos with a novel dice cascade mechanic. Have you played Dice Hospital?
So Dice Hospital is not one I've played. I have played Sagrada, though. I enjoy that and all the new expansion content they're releasing for that. And I do like the theming on this. I think it sounds fun. Yeah. I'm interested to see what the dice cascading mechanic is. I mean, it sounds interesting conceptually. So we'll see what it looks like. To me, this game reminds me of something like Suburbia, where you're going to be placing tiles next to others, and you're going to get different things happening based on where you position them, which makes sense. And I think that it just seems like a great little theme. Who doesn't like to build their own little theme park in front of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And the gist of the kind of perception of Dice Hospital seems to be really positive. I've only heard really good things about it. And this one, from the diagram here, it says this one's slightly more complex and slightly more interactive, so could be interested in checking this one out. Said a theme that's maybe starting to be a bit more explored now. There's quite a few theme park-based theme park-based games, and I think it's a cool theme, and probably could get a lot more games out of this one. So, and I tend to really like dice games as well. So, I'm sure fans of Dice Hospital will be interested in checking that one out. Okay, so I think that kind of concludes this this portion of the show today. So we're going to go on to some industry news now.
Before we wrap up, Dan, what would be your kind of pick from these selections? Your chairman's choice, if you will.
Okay. So I was struggling with this first episode actually, because there's nothing that I'm going to definitely back. If I'm going to back anything, it's probably going to be either it's a Wonderful Kingdom or potentially, let's have a look here. What else do we talk about? Potentially Florence. I'm going to hold off on that one. Maybe it'll go on sale. So yeah, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. To take a bit of a punt here, I'm going to say my chairman's choice is going to be Hidden Leaders, because I think that one could be a bit of a sleeper hit. Yeah.
Very cool. So for me in particular, my side game selection is going to be Keeper at Sea. I think it's going to hopefully rejuvenate this game that a lot of people kind of ignored or maybe flew under the radar. I love this bright blue, beautiful theme that it's injecting into it. I like the fishing idea. I think it's going to add a lot to this style of game. So I'm excited to try it. That is one that we'll most likely be adding to our library. So excited. It's cool.
Okay, cool. So following that then, let's go on to some news here. I'm not going to spend too much time going on into these stories. So let's have a look here. So the first story here is that there is going to be a new edition of Galaxy Trucker. So Galaxy Trucker is it's kind of a card-based game by Vlaada Chvátil, who is a designer who's made a massive kind of spectrum of games, from really heavy, from civilization building games, anything you can think of, to even code names. So Galaxy Trucker is a game I haven't played myself, but this one looks like it's taking a more kind of child-friendly approach, maybe a more family inviting artwork. I think it streamlines some mechanisms from the original game, and I think the idea is that you're trying to kind of construct a spaceship to go fulfill some tasks. And I think as the game progresses, you've got to navigate these different problems that are bombarding you and try to weather the storm, basically. Have you played the original?
I have not played the original, but it's one that I've seen play. It's really interesting. You're kind of building your ship out of these little tiles in the first half, and then you just watch everybody's ship get destroyed during the second half. So it's an interesting little game that's more about the spectacle and watching everybody kind of get wrecked. It has kind of that vibe of After the Empire, where you're building something and then watching it get torn down. Really interesting, really cute game. I like the idea of condensing it into one box and making sure that it is accessible and more streamlined, because I think these real-time games definitely need to have that. Otherwise, they can get a little bit more annoying to set up and actually play. So I like where they're going with this.
Yeah, definitely. And so this artwork looks way more inviting than the original one. It looks a lot more it synergizes with the actual gameplay much more, because the other one actually looked quite serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a distance, it might look like a pick up and deliver game.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the second thing we're going to be talking about is that there's going to be a new game going to be coming out by one of my favorite designers, Rainer Knizia. This one is going to be called Siege of Runedar. Now, this one, what appealed to me, not only because of the designer, the theme of the game is that we are working cooperatively to try and fight off a siege, which sounds really cool in this kind of fantasy setting. So I don't know what we're representing, but you've got to fight off these orcs and goblins, which I think is a theme that's not kind of of course, fantasy is explored massively, but the actual sieges themselves aren't really, and I think it's something that could be looked into further. So hopefully this one is going to be good. Any thoughts on this one?
So I'm excited to see what Rainer Knizia does in a cooperative setting. So I like his designs in general. There are some hits, some misses, but in general, he does a great job. But I'm excited to see what he does in a cooperative space. And tower defense style games are a blast, having to manage all the different enemies coming in. Super exciting.
Yeah, great artwork on this one too. I love this cover. Yeah, really interested to see. Again, it could be anything. I remember this time last year when they were starting to almost advertise My City coming out, and I was expecting some I was completely intrigued about what Knizia was going to do with a city building style game, and it ended up being kind of a puzzly legacy style game, which was different, something from coming out from the field that you wasn't expecting. So interesting to see what Siege of Runedar delivers. Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is I mentioned earlier that I'm not a big fan of computer games or video games. The only game that I have played in recent years is a game called Prison Architect. Now, Prison Architect is a game where you are building your own prison, but it's more of a kind of from almost like an economic perspective, where you're trying to be as efficient, you're trying to do all the plumbing or the electricity and be profitable. And this one is Prison Architect, Cardboard County Penitentiary, for release in 2022, so it's quite a way off here. But one of the designer credits is David Turtsey, who again I really enjoy his work. Have you played the video game to start off?
I've never heard of this, but I love kind of the disconnect of the artwork and the theme. And I like how on the cards you can see like the realistic prisoners and whatnot, but on the artwork here, they're just kind of represented by these little dudes. So it's cute. Yeah. It's funny. I like the idea of this zoo tycoon kind of style running your own prison. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and hopefully that shines through with the board game itself. Hopefully it more focuses on the getting money, getting in the most dangerous criminals, and getting more money for doing so, but having to balance keeping the place secure. It says here there's an auction bidding mechanism and tile placement as the kind of main kind of things in the game. But could go anywhere. This one could be great. Again, could be a quick IP cash in, but with a name like David Turtsey attached to it, then things are looking good. Next thing is I'm going to be talking about more Rainer Knizia news. Don't need any picture up for this one. There is news going around that Grail Games are going to stop reprinting kind of classic Knizia games, including Yellow and Yangtze, Medici, Stevenson's Rocket, which is quite interesting. That the reason they're saying is that they're not being nearly as successful or profitable as they were expecting, which I must say somewhat surprising. But I suppose in the kind of modern board game era, people are always looking forward to the next thing. And I don't know, maybe it's just because these games have been out for so long that people who played them have already got them, or no, they're not interested in them. Any thoughts on this?
So I think it's a very straightforward thing. I mean, business-wise, this makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Don't print something that doesn't sell. So not really much to add on here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe people taking it for granted that these games are always going to be available, because no doubt now this has been announced, people are going to start buying these in the masses, and they're going to get rare again. Then someone's going to print them, and nobody's going to buy them again. So it's a kind of vicious cycle, but I suppose that's the nature of the beast. Okay, so that's on that one. But going on, or staying on the subject of Grail games, they have a new title called The Gardens, which is going to be designed by Matthew Dunstan and Brett Gilbert. This one is a new design. Looks absolutely beautiful. If I get a picture up here. Once it loads. Okay, let's have a look. So my connection isn't the best today.
No worries. So tell me about this game. What's it about?
Okay, so it looks like we are trying to make, or you're drafting cards to build some Sydney, or some botanical gardens in Sydney. It is really beautiful to look at, and it's actually due for release this year. I like the idea of having to build some botanical gardens by drafting cards. You've got all these different features that you've got to try and focus on. I'm not sure what the scoring mechanisms are in this one, but artwork alone and the premise and the pedigree of the designers is something that interests me, and looks like something that could be really accessible and certainly draw some people in just by the way this one looks. I think it looks spectacular, and certainly has piqued my interest based on its kind of visual appeal here. What are your thoughts on the look of this one?
Totally agree. It's beautiful. One I'd love to give a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's keep going then. So next thing we're going to talk about is that there's going to be a Witcher game coming out, due for release in 2022. Kickstarter going to be launching soon. I'm a big fan of The Witcher, so going to be checking that one out. Hopefully it's not going to be another one of these cash grab games, so I'm not going to go too much into detail there until the Kickstarter is
it's got some cool mechanics so far. So it has you playing as these hunters, which is really cool. You're going to be going for killing the monsters, obviously, but it's set in a non-cooperative game. So this is every man for themselves. So you're trying to make the most coin and trying to get the most glory. It's cool. I think it'll be a solid entry in the Witcher franchise, but I'm curious to see how exactly it'll stay balanced as you play. So we'll see. It sounds cool though.
Cool. Next thing I'm going to be talking about is a new Vladimir Suki game due for release this year. I know we're both huge fans of Vladimir Suki. I think that's fair to say. Big fans of Praga, Underwater Cities, Pulsar. And this one is called Messina 1347. So he is a co-designer in this one with a Raul Aparicio. I don't know anything about Raul. This one, again, 45 to 2 hour game, 3.67 weighting. But this one is based in the introduction of the Black Plague, or the Black Death, which I think is a great theme. I love that setting and that kind of, that theme in general. I think it's a really interesting period in time. But the idea here is that during this time period, merchant ships delivering luxury goods to Europe brought these countries to an unprecedented epidemic, which is, I suppose, quite topical this time in this place in time. It says one of the first affected cities was Messina in Italy. So, because in the game, players does take the role of important Messina families who are leaving town and moving to the countryside out of fear of being infected by the plague. Then, while doing so, they are focusing on saving other inhabitants and helping to fight the plague infection in town. They must also endeavour to prosper in the countryside residents, where they are temporarily accommodating rescued residents. So, again, love the idea. I'm sure this is going to be pretty much a pasted on theme, I suppose. It's ultimately
Yeah, it seems pretty wild though. I like how it's a very different take on like a pandemic style game where you're not
Yeah,
necessarily just focusing on eradicating the disease or anything. You're
yeah,
honestly kind of taking advantage of it. So you're a noble, you're rich. So you can just relocate yourself, let havoc wreak, and then come back once it's all said and done and take your position. So it's a really interesting take. And I know it has even sparked some controversy as to kind of shedding light on, the wealthy taking advantage of the poor during this terrible time. So it's a wild theme, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. I really like the tile building. It's got some it gives me some hopefully Praga vibes where you're kind of putting things appropriately, and this one seems really cool. I'm very excited.
yeah. This is shot right to the top of my most anticipated lists. I mean, yeah, I actually love the idea of that. I know some people might say it's controversial, whatever, but if it happened, it happened, and
Mhm.
a board game's certainly not going to affect anything. So, yeah, certainly interested in trying this one. Vladimir Suki, again, tremendous designer, and just waiting to yeah, certainly as soon as I get this one, it will be hitting the table straight away. Next up is something that's actually quite personal to me because I actually got reached out and spoken to by the company who produced this game. So, if you are a fan of my channel or watch my channel, a game that I promote quite often is a game called Awkward Guests, which is a deduction game where you're trying to solve a murder mystery by using this really interesting deck system. So the designers have actually come out and announced or contacted me and announced that they're making a second game called Scandalo, which uses the same deck system but has a completely different skin on it, a different theme where you're trying to expose these celebrity scandals, which I think is a really interesting theme again. Something completely different. I can't think of any other game that uses that idea. Really nice company, really nice guys working for them, and I'm really interested to get this into the table. And hopefully, if it's as good or even not quite as good as the first one, then it's going to be something I enjoy. So here you go. Like you got to find out what the scandal plot is, who the celebrity is behind that scandal, and which newspaper will make it public. Have you played Awkward Guests?
I have not. It's one that I've wanted to play for a while, so I'm excited to try this, and hopefully this is just a great re-implementation of the system. So I like that they are doing this. It's a great step, I think, kind of using a successful, proven mechanic and making a new theme out of it. Awesome. Exciting.
Yeah. So hopefully, I don't know what it's going to be. If it is just going to be a re-implementation, if it's just purely a reskin, or if they're going to do something a bit different with this one. So certainly interested to try it, and I should be playing it within the next couple of weeks. So
Ooh,
yeah,
exciting.
really excited. Yeah, really excited for that one. Some small bits of news now. Then just to finish things off. Libertalia is going to be reprinted by Stonemaier Games. Game that I thought Libertalia is one of a really good hand management, almost kind of a role selection game. Nice one, a really good pirate themed one where you're trying to get lots of different kind of token things to get points.
Do you know if they're going to
right.
change any of the artwork or anything, or kind of deluxify it in the Stonemaier fashion?
I mean, I imagine they probably will. I mean, I think Stonemaier themselves say that one of their kind of branding things is they always have a kind of significant player piece or something to gather the audience's attention. And Libertalia didn't have that. It was a stunning game to begin with, and one of my favorite pieces of board game artwork I've ever seen. So if it gets better than that, I can't imagine it will be much better to look at. But I imagine there's going to be a statement piece in this one. Did you play the original one?
I haven't played the original one, but I'm taking a look now, and it looks pretty great. I like the idea of the theme in general. Hand management is something I enjoy, and it looks like fun.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's fun. It scales pretty well. I think it plays 2 to 6, but 3 to 6 players it works perfectly fine. 2-player I wouldn't recommend. I don't even know if it does support that. But yeah, kind of controlled chaos style game, but with some good decisions.
It's interesting that you say that it doesn't play well at low player counts, because one big mantra of Stonemaier Games is to make sure that the games play from like 1 player to 6 player. So that's interesting. I wonder if they'll introduce a solo mode in this, or okay.
I think so. I think they're buying it as a kind of a whole IP. So I don't know if it'll be kind of a new thing where they can just branch off to whatever they want to do with this pirate setting. So cool. I like that. Next up is Board and Dice have announced that they're making a Teotihuacan spinoff called The Founders of Teotihuacan. Not much information about this one at all, apart from that it's going to obviously be set in the same space, and I think it's been announced that it's going to be a tile placement game. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but interesting. Teotihuacan, brilliant game. This is by a completely different designer, but who knows what that could be? It could be anything.
And then another piece from Board and Dice. They're going to be working on a Lagrange Deluxe Edition, so super exciting. Great game, and I think that this, that Board and Dice quality, super cool. So excited for that one.
Yeah. I mean, I've not played Lagrange, but something I've wanted to play for ages, and that new edition could be something that will make that happen. Okay, and I know there's some other bits you wanted to talk about, Mackenzie.
Yeah, so one thing that we do in the library often is we like to upgrade our game components, and some really cool new ones that just hit the Board Game Geek store. We have the new Geek Bits. So these are all going to be coming next month. Things for Yellow and Yangtze, It's a Wonderful World, Dice Throne, Tapestry, Raw, and Watergate. So those will all be available next month. Now, the ones that I'm going to get in particular are probably the Tapestry and Yellow and Yangtze bits. I think that Yellow and Yangtze is a beautiful game, so I think these are they have these cool bamboo style tiles. Oh man, they just look amazing. So kind of anything to elevate a game experience I think is good. But some other things that are on their way that I'm really excited for are the war chest bits that are going to be coming, as well as the expansion bits for Targi. So lots of cool things to look forward to there with component upgrades.
Do we know what the component upgrades for Ra are? I'm quite interested in that.
So generally with these, they're going to take any of the cardboard tokens and turn them into a nice heat transfer plastic. So they're just really great to feel to the touch. Okay,
cool. And the final bit of news we're going to talk about is that there is a expansion coming out for Paris, which is a game that I rated quite highly last year, Kramer and Kiesling game. I think this one adds a bit more to it, a bit of set collection and some unique player powers. So I'm not sure if that. I think that probably will be launched on Kickstarter, so we'll cover it in a bit more detail when it comes out. Okay, so I think that finishes up with the news. So let's move on to. Let's move on into. We're going to go talk about some cards and card and component appreciation. So this is going to be a segment where we talk about particular cards, particular components, which we really enjoy for one reason or another, and we'll discuss those reasons. So the first thing we're going to be talking about, if I can get a picture up here. So let me have a look. So do you want to start talking about yours, Mackenzie? Like it up?
Sure. So I really like this idea of the kind of card or component appreciation. So this one in particular, I picked a card, and that is one of the factions from War Chest. So in War Chest, you're going to be drafting these units, and these different units you're going to be putting out onto the board, and they all have chips and they work in different ways. So my card in particular was the unit for the Marshal. So in War Chest, you have all these units that populate the board, and each one has the potential to do something. So on your turn, you'll have a hand of 3 chips. You'll discard one of those chips, and if it matches one that's on the board, you can use that unit. Now, the Marshal here, his card in general is terrifying. So Marshal is a big threat. So the Marshal works where he is going to simply give the ability of one of your other units in his area can attack. And I think that's super cool. You've got this one chip that just opens up a lot of possibility and a lot of scare tactics. So I really enjoy the kind of control that the Marshal gives you and just that threat of oppression. So I really like this one of my favorite components and one of my favorite factions for the War Chest game. Great system, great game. So I really enjoy the Marshal.
Okay, cool. Sounds awesome. The one I'm going to talk about is not nearly as as sophisticated as Mackenzie's. Mine is simply the Bishop from a small game called Brutal Kingdom by Michael Renick. This one, simply look at it. It's a frog wearing a religious gown, and I particularly like the fact that it particularly says here that the card does nothing. It says no effect. That is just amazing, and it's my favorite card I can think of. It's just no. What more can I say?
Oh, man. I love that it was the first thing that came to your mind, too. You're like, oh, we got to talk about the Bishop.
yeah. Just I loved it anyway, but that particularly, that text saying it does nothing is just incredible. Right. Okay. So that concludes this little segment here. So let's keep moving on. And I'm going to be talking about.
Great. So next up, we're going to be talking about the board games that we've been playing recently. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you wanna start?
Sure. So the games that I've been playing recently, so I do play a lot of games, so I'm not going to give you the exhaustive list, but some games that I've been playing recently include things like Blackout Hong Kong, the new Zombicide Second Edition, Micro Macro Crime City, the new Cloudspire factions for Horizon's Wrath, Nidavellir, as well as Red Rising. So a lot of these games, brand new to our library, and all we're keeping. So great. It's been a great month for the library. Haven't had to get rid of anything. But one that really stood out in particular to me was, well, I guess two. The first one is Zombicide Second Edition. They introduced there's a new expansion that's called the Presidential Expansion, where you can play as like Barack Obama, George Bush, Donald Trump, and you have all these different presidents at your disposal. And they're super strong because they can call them like airstrikes and stuff. So it's really fun to play as them because you can amp up the difficulty of all the zombies as well. So you're playing with like a bunch of abominations on the board, and it just feels really satisfying to kind of have a game that's as difficult as possible, and you're able to use these really strong, overpowered characters. So a lot of fun there, and who doesn't like being Barack and George Bush, working together? It's hilarious. And then the other one that I would probably give my game of the month distinction to is going to have to be Micro Macro Crime City. I'm so impressed and over the moon with this game. It's one that you can play with anybody. It's a crime solving game set in a Where's Waldo style, where you're going to be looking for visual clues. And it really sets it apart from most of those crime solving games because the game is visually based as opposed to something like text based, like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective or the detective series from Portal Games. So I found it really fresh, really interesting, and you can visually see the clues. There is a correct answer, and it's something that you can go out and find. It's really approachable. I played this with my mom, and she loved it. She went out and got a copy. It's amazing. I love how accessible it is. I love how interesting it is, and I love the art and just the whole direction. I'm excited to see what else comes from this franchise. So really awesome month. I've really enjoyed gaming this month.
Okay, great. Yeah, some interesting games there. Yeah, I think it was me who actually recommended for you to check out Blackout Hong Kong.
Yes, you did. You did. Blackout Hong Kong was a recommendation by you. I've had some fun with it. So I've played it at the solo, 2, 3, and 4 player counts. So all the different player counts, and it's interesting. So I wouldn't put it over Great Western Trail. I know you recommended over that, but I do like the system of kind of mini objectives and building your hand out.
Yeah.
I like that there's a lot of important planning. So I do find it a very cool style game. I love that they changed the artwork in this new edition, so it's not that completely muted black, and I think it does work really well. So I like this one. It's a good one.
And a thumbs up or a thumbs down for Nidavellir?
I really like Nidavellir. Oh my gosh, it's good. And we just got the Thingavalir expansion in as well. So super excited. I love the style. I love the theme. I love the coin crafting. The heroes are ridiculous. We've been playing with some of the newer ones, and whoa, they're super fun. So it's one that I really like going back to. So super pleased with Nidavellir. It just came out in the US, so very excited to finally get it.
Yeah, I was very happy with that one. I think that was a really good family-friendly game. Okay, I've played quite a few actually over the last couple of weeks, but I'll just talk about some of the main topics. So I mentioned earlier I played Venice, which was the second Braincrack game. This one designed by David Turtsey. This one is I suppose it's a pick up and deliver style game, but you are navigating these maps around the map of Venice. But every time you go a certain route past another player, then you can gain intrigue. And when you gain intrigue, it's basically one of these things where if you have the most intrigue at the end of the game, you'll automatically be eliminated from winning. So that was quite interesting. I quite like the way you had to plan your routes. You're paying coins to go on kind of diversions and things. Just picking up things, delivering them to different spaces, and building up a bit of an engine by visiting these buildings. It was good. I mean, I did like it. It had some pretty significant production issues, especially at higher player counts. The board simply wasn't big enough, i.e. you would have your player ships, which would physically contain the things you are delivering. And if everyone went to the same spot, at the same port, then these ships would just completely cross the board and just clutter the whole thing up. It was very cluttered, and it was a bit frustrating, really. But almost a good game, but I couldn't be honest, or I had to be honest with myself, and I couldn't really recommend this one. The other games I've talked about or I've played is Rajas of the Ganges, which was a game that I did enjoy. I thought this was a nice kind of Gateway Plus worker placement game where your resources are dice. I gave this one a shield of quality, which is about 7 out of 10 for me. Beautiful looking game, one of the best looking boards I've along on. Some nice tile placement as well as you're collecting these tiles, building them up, trying to connect these different spots. Yeah, like this one, definitely a strong recommendation if you like this kind of weighting of game on that lighter medium end of the scale. Really pleasant game. Next one I played has been Pulsar 2849. Vladimir Suki game, absolutely blown away. Definitely my game of the month. I think it was absolutely sick. Dice drafting game, point salad, loads of things you can do, and I can hear it all day talking about all the different options you can take. Just perfectly suited for me. And I normally don't play space themed games, but this one completely just blew me away. Loved it. And a couple of other things here. Parade was a nice little card game, a small filler style game as you are trying to have the fewest points, but it has this really interesting thing where you are playing these cards onto this other row of cards, and you would skip over a number of spaces equal to the card you just played, and then end up kind of accumulating cards after that. And depending on what other people have, you're going to score points accordingly. Beautiful looking game, almost Alice in Wonderland theme. Always looking for a good filler game in my collection, and this one is one of the best I've played in a long time. Really praised. And this was actually recommended to me by the guys at the Back of the Shelf podcast, which I recently featured on. Really good guys, and I'm so happy they recommended it to me because perfect little filler game. And the final game I played, I actually uploaded a review yesterday of Tiny Epic Pirates. So a 2021 release. This one is a rondel-based game, another pick up and deliver style games. You're collecting these different pirate booty and delivering them off to these different ports. Some nice mechanisms here. Always impressed about how they fit so much game into a little box. Really, really great. I've never actually played a Tiny Epic game before this one, but set a strong precedent for me, and I would probably go back and play some of the other ones based on this one. I love the pirate theme. This one worked pretty well. So yeah, that's the games I'm going to talk about this week. I'll talk about some other ones maybe in the next episode.
Yeah, Tiny Epic Pirates is one that I didn't back on the Kickstarter. I have had some positive and negatives with the whole Tiny Epic series as a whole. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy the dinosaurs and I really enjoy galaxies, but the rest of them have been pretty big misses for me. So I figured I'd just wait to retail. A lot of the times you can get all that deluxe edition stuff afterwards, so no big deal there. I do really want to quickly interject, Dan. I forgot to mention the new factions for Cloudspire are amazing. So if you play that game and you have any interest in any future, factions or expansions, the new content is ridiculous. It's super challenging, super crazy. The pirates are really weird to wrap your head around how they work, and the mercenaries are probably the best faction in my opinion. They're super fun and super tactical as you play. Awesome. So just really want to throw those out there. They can't be ignored. Amazing.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about some other things then. So starting to get to the end of things now. So we were going to do a little feature called "Why Is This in Your Collection?" So we're going to pick a game from each other's list of titles we own, and basically ask the other person why they keep it, why they like it, what it serves, etc. So do you want to go first, Mackenzie?
Sure. So the game that I picked that's in your collection that I'm curious as to why you own it is Age of War. So Age of War is a tiny little dice game where you're going to be trying to roll symbols that match all of these little cards in the middle of the game board. And if you match all the symbols by rolling and re-rolling, then you claim the card. And then you can do that to other people's cards. So the game ends, I think, when all the cards are taken. So something like that. And then whoever has the most cards in front of them wins. Ooh, look at that rating. What do you think, Dan? Why do you like this game? Why is this in your collection?
Okay, this game I've never ever failed to have a bad example of this game. Never, ever. So believe it or not, I actually asked my girlfriend a question the other day, said if she had to give herself a top 10 of her favorite games. She's not a gamer. She plays things just to humour me, basically. Sometimes she'll play things. Age of War was her number one.
What?
So, yeah, that's all it is. It says dice rolling, trying to match symbols, and trying to collect these different castles as set collection. I love the game. I love the Yahtzee element to it. It's so simple. This is like a 1 out of 5 in terms of weighting. And but the actual added element of having to or being able to steal things off other people by rolling those symbols again, but with an additional symbol, it just creates some real laugh out loud moments. Some great comebacks are available in this game. You know, I've been in situations where I'm miles behind and the other people are swabbing between each other, and you can just come out from the inside and snatch everything. It's so much fun, and I really enjoy it. Not even slightly ashamed of owning this one.
Okay, so I gotta tell you, my friend Jeremy, he's titled and coined this game as Age of Salt. This game is ridiculous. You could totally cheese on the dice rolls, or you could just get robbed. Oh man, this is like, for me, this is a big feels bad game. Like, geez, you can get cheesed so hard. Ugh. But I can see why you like it. It's quick. But for me, these style of dice games where you're sitting there doing your whole thing and everybody else is watching you, not something that I generally gravitate towards too. I can see how this would be good for a 2-player game, but I don't know, man. Okay, but I mean, if your girlfriend likes it, then keep it. Yeah, definitely keep it.
Yeah, I see what I understand. I fully appreciate it. Is what it is. I've given it a 6.5 out of 10. And that's simply because it is so simple. If I had to do it on enjoyment, it might be a little bit higher than that. So I love it. Random Knizia Classic. Okay, so the game I've chosen for you is not in the same vein. I've not done it from a perspective of you trying to defend it.
Okay.
I have done it from the perspective of you trying to sell it. You trying to that's okay. You trying to sell it to me, because this is a game I've been on the fence about for a long time, and you actually mentioned it earlier. This is Keyflower.
Oh, dude. So this game is amazing. What do you know about Keyflower so far?
So I'm aware that you bid on these different tiles with different coloured workers, and then can you eventually claim them as your own, and then other people have to pay you to use them. Is that right?
That is correct. So in Keyflower, it is a worker placement / auctioning game. So the game's core mechanic is that you have these keeples. They're these tiny little dudes, and you're going to be using them to do 2 things. The first thing that you can do is you can place them on a tile to activate that space. The second thing you can do is you can place them around one of the central tiles to bid for it. If you win the bid at the end of the round, you'll take that tile and put it in your own little kingdom. Now, here's the twist. You can use any tile anywhere. It doesn't have to be yours. It doesn't have to be owned by anybody. You could just use it. You put a guy on there, and if you're the first person to go, it only costs 1 worker. But if you're the second person to go, you got to put 2. If you're the third, it's got to be 3. But you can also just, if you're the first person, put 3 on there right away, because you can never have more than 3 workers at a time on the space. So you can lock out specific actions. Now, the same thing works with the bidding. Instead of placing on a tile, you can place around them in order to secure those tiles and add them to your own kingdom. It might be good for scoring. Some tiles are worth extra points. But here's the kicker. You can, if people use your tiles at the end of every round, you get all the workers that are on those tiles. So you really have to decide, is it worth losing some workers to get a very popular tile? Is it worth losing the actions you can do now in order to secure scoring for the future? And the fact that you get your objectives at the very beginning of the game, because you're going to be playing in 4 seasons, but you get all of your like final season tiles and you get to look at them before you start, is amazing, because you can plan your strategy being very tactical based on what comes out during the first 3 seasons. It is so well done. This game is one of my favorites. This is a 10 out of 10 game for me.
Okay.
It's amazing. And this is why I'm so keen to try Keeper. Let me go to my my comment here. The options present in the game are so straightforward but thoughtful and tense. The auction mechanism is so sound and smooth, and I love the way you build your whole game around the endgame tiles you start with. But you're able to pivot based on what comes onto the board and what you anticipate other players may be doing. It's got a lot of flexibility in it. It's got very sound mechanics, and the game itself is really beautiful and really fun. It's very cute. You've got these cute little houses that you'll put in front of you as player shields. You've got the tiny little keeples that you'll be putting on the board, and it's very expandable. There's lots of expansions for it, and they're all pretty good. So I have not had a negative experience with the expansions. This can be a little bit weird to kind of wrap your head around how it works the first time you play it, because you can score a gratuitous amount of points, but I think it's definitely worth the investment. It plays great at low and high player counts. My sweet spot for this game for me is probably 3 or 4 players, though. So it's fantastic.
Okay, yeah, you sold me. I mean, I was worried that beneath that kind of key, the key unique elements, the other things would be a bit generic. But I suppose when something's as highly rated as this, it has been for a long time. The credence behind that. So I just wanted that extra kind of just kick to get me over that hill and to actually buy this one, because I imagine I'll like it, but for some reason I've just always held off on buying it, and I probably shouldn't. So, okay, good choice. And again, I will be picking this one up now. All right.
Good. Yes, and this is like one of his first key games, I think. So this really kicked off his series, and I think that really shows. This is a very fresh new design, and I think it still definitely holds for the test of time.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, let's move on from our collections and go on to the BGG climbers. So we're going to run through these quickly. So we are going to talk about some of the games that are most quickly or most rapidly climbing through the ranks of Board Game Geek. Now, if you're not familiar with this feature, this chap here, Michael Alexander, has made this really great kind of algorithm, I suppose, which shows which games have been climbing through Board Game Geek the quickest. I've spoken to Michael before. He's more than happy for me to use this stuff. So I'm grateful for him for that. So let's talk about some of these games. So first off, biggest jump this week, Company of Heroes. I don't know anything about this one. Seems to be getting very highly rated. Only 154 reviews though. Coming in at an average of 9.2. Have you heard of this one?
I can't really add to this. I think it's based off of maybe an app or an existing IP. So I think that might be why it's kind of hitting hard and people are enjoying it, because maybe it's an IP that actually has a good game. So we'll see.
Okay, cool. Next, we have Hadrian's Wall at number 2. This one has average of 8.46, so massively highly rated, 175 ratings, so still on the lower end of things, but jumped up over 1,000 places in a week to just below 4,000, or just higher than 4,000.
So Hadrian's Wall is just hitting the US retail release, a gigantic roll and write style game, so kind of crazy, but I like the artwork here. It's a solid game. Okay.
So we got a green edition of Railroad Inc., or a challenge edition. I don't know. Is this like a mini expansion or something?
So this is a brand new version of Railroad Inc. It was kickstarted last year. It has some new kind of mini expansion dice. It also has like a more challenging version of Railroad Inc. You've got like objectives as opposed to just rolling the dice. So it adds a new level of intensity to the Railroad Inc. franchise. I think it's funny that they picked the green one over something else. So like, man, the yellow one sucks to be you, but it's really funny to me that they picked this one over the other.
Okay, fair play. Next popular game at the moment, Red Rising. 860 ratings, up to lower than 2,000 now. So made some quite significant waves in the last few weeks, averaging at a 7.7. You just played this one, haven't you?
Yes, so we just received this a couple of weeks ago. I do have a review on my channel for it. Not one that I'm super enamored with. I'd pick its younger brother, Fantasy Realms, over it any day, but it's definitely true to the theme. A lot of the mechanics are sound in regard to theme. So if you do like the Red Rising books, this might be one that you pick there. But it's delivering the collector's edition to everybody right now. That's definitely the reason for the search.
Okay, cool. We have Lions of Lydia. Now, this is a game I actually nearly backed last year. Very beautiful looking game. I believe it has a rondel system, and it seems to be, I suppose it's just being fulfilled. So only 100 ratings, but doing pretty well.
Can't speak to this one.
Okay, cool. Zombicide, 2nd edition. This isn't a new release, is it?
It is a brand new release, actually. So this is the Kickstarter is just fulfilling. So this is one that my wife and I have been playing a lot of recently. That's the presidential expansions from this one. So it's neat. It's a great little rendition of Zombicide. They do some really neat things here to streamline the game. So you're basically always playing, which is really nice. They've changed the layout of the zombie cards, and they've kind of really streamlined the phases. So I think the new edition definitely works well, and it's definitely updated, which is really nice.
Cool. Kemet, Blood and Sand. So this is the new edition of Kemet, a game I haven't played. Probably, I imagine I'd like this one. It has tech trees and stuff in an area control game. I know it's an immensely popular game to start with, and I suppose the new edition is just improving on the existing rules. So extremely highly rated, 8.6, and this is just going to keep going up until probably the top few hundred. Anything on that one, Mackenzie?
So nothing in particular. This is one that I haven't played, but I've been recommended a lot. I was waiting until the release of this new edition, so I'm excited for when it does finally get here so we can start playing. This came out at the Kickstarter for this was at the same time as Ankh. So to be honest, Ankh is the one that I did back on Kickstarter because it did have all those exclusives and whatnot. So I'm curious to see how the two compare. They have very similar themes, just the whole Egypt style, but extremely different gameplay. So I'm curious to see which one I'll end up liking more.
It looks good. We have PAX Viking. So I know these PAX games are very popular. I've never played any of them. I believe you're a fan of one of them, am I right?
I'm a big fan of PAX Pamir, and I'm a big fan of PAX Porfiriana. I like both of those style games. The PAX system itself is basically just a market of cards that you're buying from, but this has that Viking theme, so you're going to be using those cards to interact in that fashion.
Cool. It looks like a lot of these games are just being fulfilled at the moment or just starting to hit people's tables. So hence why the few ratings but big jumps. And we have Venice, which we just talked about. A game I said was a bit of a hit and miss for me. I thought it was solid, but could have been better. Averaging at 6.8. I think that's probably spot on for me. I think I rated it about 6, 5.5, 6. Probably going to start to languish this one. Okay, we have Mercado de Lisboa. Now, this is a smaller Vital Lacerda game, or at least he's a co-creator of this one. An abstract game, really beautiful to look at. Eagle Griffin production. Quite a few plays now, 412 ratings, averaging at just above a 7.2 there. But hitting the 3,000s.
This one really cracks me up because it takes a small part of the game Lisboa, and that's the whole game. That's so funny to me that they were like, "Oh, this mechanic's real good. Let's just do this part." That cracks me up. But I mean, if you can make a good game out of it, awesome. And it looks like it's doing well.
Yeah. This one's actually on my shelf to be played. It's over there.
Awesome! I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I should be playing it within the next few days. We have Warhammer Quest, Curse City. Not my cup of tea. Don't know anything about this one.
I'm not really into these, Warhammer miniature combat games. The only game that I'll construct at home is, build the miniatures for is probably Kingdom Death Monster. So not as invested in this one.
Cool. We have Nidavellir, which is a game we both really enjoy. This one starting to do really well. I'm glad to see it because I was really concerned that this one was going to fly under that radar. Hitting the 500s now, fantastic. It deserves to be there, and it deserves to be higher. 7.8 on this one as well. Very good.
That's awesome. Yep, it's definitely hitting the US now. It's just starting to get into that retail release here. So glad that everybody's getting a chance.
Absolutely. We have Jekyll versus Hyde. I don't know anything about this one. Having a 7, 200 ratings. Still right down there in the 5,000s.
Never heard of that one, honestly.
No, same. Marvel United. Okay. Above 1,000 already, 840. Probably even higher than that by the time this is out. 2,000 ratings, averaging 7.6. So, if it's Marvel, it's...
Yeah, the timing on this one is also pretty appropriate. Not only did it deliver last month to everybody, but you also have the X-Men one that's on Kickstarter now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do want to interject really quick. The Warhammer, that game is actually Warhammer Quest. So it's a little bit different. So Warhammer Quest is actually a really cool system. So I thought that this was just a regular Warhammer kind of miniatures game, but Warhammer Quest is actually kind of cool. You take the Warhammer theme and it puts you in like this dungeon crawler style game.
Yeah.
So it's actually a cool approach to the style of game if you like the world, but not necessarily the skirmish battle. So I do want to give it credit for that. I have some friends that really enjoy this system. So I think it's a really cool idea if you like this theme, but not necessarily the head-to-head skirmish battle, and you want something a bit more cooperative. So definitely want to give it credence to that.
Yeah. I used to play the app actually on my phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was okay. I quite liked it. Okay, so back to 15 then. We've got Cryo. Don't know much about this one at all. Seems to be doing pretty average.
So Cryo is actually a Luke Laurie design. So this is coming off the back of Dwellings of Eldervale. So there's a lot of good buzz on this one. This is apparently a solid design. You're settling onto a small planet, getting resources for things. So it seems very sound mechanism-wise, but I don't think anything's standoutish.
Okay, cool. Number 16, we have Rocket Man, which I believe, Martin Wallace game. Martin Wallace, obviously massively, critically acclaimed. 300 ratings, just above a 7. That's quite surprising to see that. Doesn't seem to be getting really highly rated.
I think when Martin Wallace has hits, they hit hard, but a lot of his games kind of fall into that 7 category. So
okay. Oath, which is I suppose a leader game, I assume by the name of it. 484 reviews, averaging above an 8. So this one is going to be on the warpath to the higher numbers. Already at 2,400.
So right now, this one's delivering in Europe and Australia. It'll still be probably a month or two before it hits the US, but this is one I'm super excited for. It's got this like living system of the game where kind of like a Maracaibo, where you can pick up and play just kind of one off and then enjoy. And then based on how that game ends, it'll affect the next game, like the whole state of the board. And you could play it with different players and your game evolves. Oh, love this. Love this concept.
Okay, cool. 18, we have Lost Ruins Varnak. I thought Varnak was really good. I don't think it's ranked 111 good. Averaging about.
Oh my gosh.
That's okay. Bad, yeah. Obviously, they're doing something right. Looks great. So it's a theme that's going to appeal to a lot of people, and worker placement is always popular.
This is one that I have stuck in a pre-order, so I'm waiting for this. It's stuck with Under Falling Skies. So if the Game Foundry from Wizard Gaming Foundry can get their stuff together, I would love to play this one soon.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Not great, but good.
Okay.
X-Men Mutant Insurrection. I believe this one might be the re-implementation of. No, I'm wrong. I'm thinking of something different.
So you're right. This is a re-implementation of it's the Cthulhu dice game. I forget what it's called, but
Elder Sign.
Elder Sign. Yeah, Elder Sign. So it's that re-implementation. Wasn't really hit with a lot of positive feedback on this one. As you can see, it's rated pretty lowly in the 8,000s, 6.8. But I'm curious to see why there's a bit of a resurgence this month. This came out a couple months ago, so we'll see.
Okay. Cubitos. Nearly 1,000 ratings, 7.9, doing very well, 1,319. So
I've heard nothing but good praise for that one. So bag building meets race games. So interesting.
Yeah, we got Gladius. Don't know too much about this one. Very low rating, well, very few amount of rating. Sorry, but racing well, nearly an 8. But still early days for that one, I think. Merchant's Cove. Now this one is the completely asymmetric game that did relatively well on Kickstarter last year. Again, early days for that one, but seems to be doing very well. Sleeping Gods. Okay, Sleeping Gods at 23. This one was, I know, one of the most anticipated games of the year. Nearly 1,000 ratings in, rating at 8.7. Again, fast track to the probably top 100 for that one.
I can totally agree with that. This is definitely the best open world style game. It's super rewarding, super fun, super exciting. It's one that I love going back to. And the reason I think of the resurgence right now is it is available now in retail. So you can get that retail edition. And this definitely has been out since January for backers. So it's got a lot of love in these last couple months.
Okay. We got Genotype, a Mendelian genetics game. I'm not too sure about this one, but rating well. We got Dominant Species, Marine. Dominant Species is a game I actually really didn't enjoy at all. I don't know what this. I don't know what this one. If it improves on the original, but not something I'm interested in at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is one I'm just waiting for somebody else to teach it to me, honestly. I don't know if this is one that people will pull out and play as opposed to other like larger, more bombastic area control games, or inversely something more simple and straightforward like El Grande or something like that. So I'm not sure if this one's going to be one that sticks.
Okay. Yeah, completely agree, but still I think the reputation, I know the fan base of Dominant Species is massively behind it. 300 ratings, rating at nearly an 8.5, and already up to 2,450. We'll cover a few of the fallers. Mechs and Minions falling from 43 to 45.
No, 2 whole spaces.
Yeah. Quacks of Quedlinburg. This one's falling 65 to 67. Still, the drop in the ocean. Clank, the game thought was okay. 67 to 69. Pandemic Legacy Season 2, 34 to 35. I wasn't actually aware that this one actually climbed this high. It's quite interesting.
Man, those Pandemic Legacy games, they're pretty fantastic. So I can see why they're so highly rated. Something that leaves that big of an impression on you is definitely going to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, the Crew. Weird to see this one getting any kind of anything negative happening to it. This one's 38 to 39. Still a very small drop in the ocean for the Crew.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent on that rating. You can look there. It's been 8.1 for a couple months now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, massive hit of last year, or I suppose into this year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we'll stop the BGG climbers there. If you're happy, Mackenzie, maybe if we'll in a future episode we can go into the second part as well, because I think the rankings do actually go to 50 spaces, which is quite a lot of games.
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So
that's a lot of games to talk about. Whew. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go into our final segment before closing out, and we will be looking at a random game from Board Game Geek. So if you're not familiar, there is a feature on Board Game Geek called Random Game, which I'll show you now. And so we are completely unprepared for this. This could be anything. We're just going to see if it appeals to us, whether it's something that we've already played, or it's going to be complete garbage. So we can have a look. So here we go. If you want to look for this, you can go and browse and then onto Random Game, select that one, and we shall see what we get. So undoubtedly, this is going to be a game that one person's played ever, but we shall see.
Yeah, there's a lot of games, so I'm not looking forward to what's going to come out here.
Oh, okay. We have Yargo.
So initial impressions, go. What do you think? Artwork, boom.
Stunning. Okay, we've got 2. Go ahead.
For me, I look at this game and I have no idea what it's about. All right, maybe it's about a boat. The Argo, right? That's a boat.
Yeah, why not? So this one is from 2015. Only three ratings, 5 comments. 10 to 30 minute game. Waiting of 2. Okay, it looks pretty cool actually.
I have not heard of the publisher or the designers or the artists. Let's take a look at this thing.
No. Okay, so this is a fighting pirate game with action points and grid movement. This almost looks like it's a bespoke kind of game that maybe hasn't been sold out of a few copies, maybe to some friends. Let's have a look.
Yargo.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks very much homemade. Something that's not going to be mass produced, that's for sure. But
wow. Okay, so the structure for the game, you're going to start your turn with 4 coins. You spend them to do your different actions on your action menu, so action points. Now, here is probably the kicker. It says a lot of the actions require you to flip a coin to see how they resolve. Oh my gosh, could you imagine? And then it says once you've spent the coins, it's your opponent's turn. So the winner is the last crew standing. So I guess it's fine if it's kind of like roll to resolve, but flip to resolve. I love that you're actually flipping the coins that you're using to pay for the actions. You flip them over to your opponent. That sounds kind of fun. And the board itself looks very clean. I like kind of the grid system. And like you said, it's handmade. It looks nice.
Yeah, cool. And it looks like this version here, I suppose this is probably the only version, is you've got these little folding box by the looks of it. You've got hinges on here, so very cool, very something different there, and probably something you'll never ever hear of again in your life.
It looks like it was a Kickstarter for a collector's edition. There's a wooden one that you can get. There's also a print and play edition, so you had 2 choices when you're originally backing it.
Okay.
But this game came about 4 years ago. It looks like the designer is the only person who's actually posted on the page. So I'm curious. Yeah, it's funny. Somebody put some questions for the designer in the comments here, but he still hasn't responded like 5 years later. So I think he's done with this game, most likely.
He's too
So
busy selling.
if you've got he's too busy selling. Yeah, if you've got a copy of Yargo, you're probably in the minority. Hold on to that. It's got some value.
There we go. Everyone wants it. Okay. So that's going to lead in to the end of the show then. So thank you so much for joining us. So we are going to start something by listing a question on my YouTube channel or Mackenzie's. Basically putting a few poll questions out and responding to your result in the next episode. So this week we're going to be asking how many unplayed games are your collection or your shelf of shame or shelf of opportunity, if you want to frame it that way. Personally, at the moment, I've got probably more games than I've ever not played at once. I usually only keep it to a couple. At the moment, I've probably got just above 10, including expansions, which is, I suppose, not too bad. How about yourself?
In my collection in the side game library, 0. Played every single game in it. I tend to, as soon as a game comes in, I got to learn it right away. So I just boom, get it done, learn it, play it. I churn through games, so I have no issue with playing games. It's not a big deal. Definitely make sure it happens.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I used to be like that. Recently, I've kind of I fell off the wagon a bit. Okay, great. So thank you so much for everybody for joining us for the first episode. Do you want to quickly run through some games that we're looking forward to playing for the next one?
Yeah. So really quickly though, Brian Lamison, he says that we've given him way too many games to check out today. So super cool. Thanks for engaging with us, Brian. In future episodes, we are definitely going to, at the end of this section here, kind of pull up comments and definitely talk back. So I'm glad we gave you some inspiration here, Brian. But for me in particular, these next couple of weeks, I have Millennium Blades Collusion finally delivering. It's going to be here on Thursday. So I've been waiting for this thing for like 3 years. So that's kind of insane. It's a cool CCG simulator. Has you playing as like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic player in a 2-hour experience, as opposed to having to actually go to a card store and play. So it's one that I have played, and I'm excited for the cooperative version that's going to be introduced with Collusion. So I think that's a great way to get people into a game like this. So really exciting.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've got a few things I want to play myself. We talked about Yellow and Galaxy earlier. That one is actually on my shortlist to be played. So hoping to play that one in the next few days. Mercado de Lisboa as well, which we mentioned. I got the expansion for Res Arcana to check out, the new expansion for Teotihuacan to check out, amongst other things. So we'll talk about those in the next episode. So
again, forgot to add, I got 2 more. I just had this order in. Trois. So Trois is going to be here. I have not played it, but it sounds amazing. So I'm really excited to try that one.
Yes, it is.
And then Fields of Arl. So those 2 are also going to be in here. They're packaged with a copy of Bonanza, which is a family favorite here. So I'm excited to try those. But the Res Arcana expansion is coming out, the new one?
No, this is the original one. It's got
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
It's great. That's a no-brainer ad. So I think you'll enjoy that one.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I'm really enjoying Res Arcana, so yeah, I'm looking forward to more stuff.
Good.
So yeah, thank you very much for everybody for joining us for this pilot episode. Hopefully it's not been too painful with me at the helm. This is my cup of tea. I'm not normally the one to control this technological stuff. I'm rubbish at it. But
you did a great job, Dan. It's something you definitely will get comfortable with. And if we're doing this bi-weekly, I assume that you'll be great. You'll be great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks again. Thanks for Mackenzie. Thanks for everybody who's watched. Thank you to everybody who's going to watch. I said it's going to be a regular thing every 2 weeks or so. We'll be adding new features in. We'll be constantly trying to improve things, add more fun segments, and just keep on getting better and better, everybody. So thank you for your continued support, and we'll see you on the next one. Mackenzie,
thanks, everybody. Side game strong, y'all. Have a good one.
Bye now.